3-year plan. I transferred to Humboldt. I did sociology there. That's where I became a little hippie. Came back to LA, worked my family's smoothie shops. We have 4 locations there, and then recently became a real estate broker. I'm working on that. So I'm tied up between, helping out the family, making it grow, and also, selling homes and becoming a broker, and try to have 2 different assets, two different revenues of money coming in, just to have more cushion in my life, to have a little bit more comfort. That's it.
My name is Hanan. I was at Glenelg College from 2001 to 2003, 2004. I don't know.
2004.
4? There you go. I guess I was on the 3-year plan too. So when I left here, I went to Cal State Northridge, double majored in political science and economics. From there, I went to USC to do my master's, and I'm currently doing my doctorate there. I work in the field of education. I actually work here, and my job pretty much entails in helping students figure out how to access college. So application, financial aid, career counseling, EOPS. All of you, hopefully, have already figured that out since you're already students here, but if you haven't, then we should talk after this. And so my full-time job is working here, and then when I'm not working here, I'm at USC studying and doing research. I practically have no life.
I have no life. My name is Dr. Aline Terhagopian. I'm a Hoover High School dropout, so anyone Hoover High, yeah. I went to LAVC after I got it together, and then Cal State LA for bachelor's. Then went on to Alliant for a doctorate in clinical psychology. And right now I'm doing a postdoctoral master's because A, I don't have to pay back the loan yet, and B, it's cool to prescribe too. So what do I do now? Let's see. I'm interning for hours for licensure. Also teaching online and in person. We do personality assessment. All those cool forensic shows that you watch, and these like, oh, this person's crazy, oh, this person's not. So we do that a little bit. And also I help my parents at our little mom and pop dollar store, Dollar Choice on like San Fernando and Los Feliz. So yeah, with a doctorate degree, folding clothes, so you never know where the path leads. So welcome everyone.
All right. So we're going to start with a career and education section, all right? Some of the questions that we have. The first one, how did you end up in the field or career that you are currently in, and was this your plan?
Hello. All right. Well, I did sociology, right? And I was going to do my master's for sociology and do my doctorate for sociology. I see myself being a professor. But it made me realize that sometimes you gotta work with what's given to you. My mom at the time wanted to retire for the smoothie shop we had, and I was like, wait, I kind of want to work for myself. So I realized that I'd rather help out, our corporation grow, and put a sociology aside for later. So I did sociology. Now I'm doing, the smoothie shops and real estate. I don't regret going to college. I think it was like the 4 years, maybe 6 years of most beautiful of my life. You should still get a degree no matter whether you're pursuing you should still you should still finish your 4-year college, whatever field you're going through. It would be like the best investment you can make. Right now I don't study sociology anymore, but I do feel that it has helped me become a better person. It's helped me understand the world. And I'm not necessarily, go hand in hand, but I have a better thinking core, a better system of how the world works. That's all.
So we're just laughing about this outside. The week I got the job here, so I got a bachelor's degree in political science and economics. The first week I was here, we had an event, and there was no publicity for the event. So myself and the dean here, who has a PhD, we were making signs. Coloring signs. And we kind of just looked at each other like, between the two of us, we just spent close to 90 grand and we're making signs. But that's the reality of what we do here at Glendale College is the work needs to get done. It doesn't really matter whether you have a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's degree. All of those things don't necessarily matter. It's do you have the skills you need to do what it is that you want to do. So when I moved to the US, my goal was to work on the stock market. I still love economics. That's why I did business and economics as my first few majors. And then I switched to political science and economics because that's where I found my passion. Like, I like advocating for students. I like working for students to help them figure out what it is that they need to do with their lives. So having done that after I got my double major, I ended up going back to get a master's in education because that's what would help me further my career. And now I'm doing a doctorate in education as well. So education has helped me in my life plan and my career plan so far. But I did switch majors 3 times until I found what it was exactly I wanted to do. And economics always comes in handy for me. I figure out what it is that I'm doing, how it is that I make my decisions and stuff like that. And yeah.
Well, the life path, like especially in community college, I feel like I changed my major. I don't know if any of you can contest to this, but like maybe once a week, twice a week if it was a good week, you know. At first, after getting a GED, I went to pharmacy tech school because, you know, that's what the commercials say when you're at home at that time. You know, they try to get you into some kind of trade school. And so I did it because at that time I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to count the pills. I'm going to like be at Rite Aid. I'm going to work all the time. It's going to be great. And 2 years into the pharmacy tech job while I was getting my bachelor's, it was like, you know, when you have a gut feeling that it's like the worst thing that you're doing and you being at that job is really draining you. Has anyone had that feeling? So that's when I said enough is enough. I did it to pay the bills at the time, which is what most of us do. You have to go with the flow. And then after that, you know, the jobs kind of start finding you. Not saying it's, you know, the easiest thing in the world, but if there's determination, there's always a way to everything.
Thank you. What is the best resume building advice you can give? Anybody can start.
I would say take any opportunity you can get. You have no idea where the next job is going to come from. The job that I have now is based on a volunteer opportunity I took when I was a student. Like somebody had to hound me. They came after me for like 6 months. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I kept saying, no, I'm playing soccer. No, I've got this other extracurricular thing I'm doing. And it turns out the person that was hiring 8 years later was someone I met by joining the student government, for example. Do not say no to any opportunity. If there's a way that you're going to learn a new trade, a new skill, or even meet new people that are in a different field, take it. If there's anything I've learned about being a Trojan at USC is that your network is everything. People that I'll meet today, you never know. You might be hiring me sometime soon. Some idea that you have might put you in a situation where I want to work for you. So, don't ever say no to opportunity. This would be my biggest resume building thing. Because your resume is just on paper what you've been able to do, what you can bring to the table. So, think of it that way.
Just feeding off of you, I was going to say the same thing. It's like, become a yes man, yes woman. I have a funny story. Last weekend, I met a person that he wanted me to promote his company. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be a shit show. You guys are all 18 over, right? Yeah. And I was like, I'm just gonna go and see what happens. And because I'm a yes person, and a lot of my goals in my life have been because I'm always positive about it, and I'm always has this great attitude about everything. So I went in there, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I didn't like it, but I laughed so much because I was so happy I did it, even though it was probably the worst experience of my life. I still laughed about it, like deep down, because I had the courage to do it, even though it might have been that good. But the moral of that story is, you gotta say yes. You gotta go out. You gotta meet people. You gotta hang out with smarter people than you are. You gotta hang out with people that are doing great, not people that are doing bad. It's okay to hang out with like your high school buddies and stuff, but if they're not doing so well, guess what? They're not gonna help you build a resume. Plain and simple.
Oh, my turn.
Can you use the mic, Ellen?
Sure,
Thank you.
yeah. You guys hear me? You guys, can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, I go off the other guys, say yes to everything. There's always a good outcome. It depends how you look at the cup, half full or half empty. So it's kind of funny because a lot of times you go to these interviews and they ask you, so what's your hobby? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do I do during the day? Like work-wise, homework-wise, or getting, trash with buddies? Like, what do you mean? What is a hobby? And literally your resume and later on in your academic career, your curriculum vitae, it becomes your hobbies. So if you enjoy mentoring students, which I'm guilty, it goes on your resume. If you enjoy, for example, reading, your contributions to the academic literature in your own library, that goes on your resume. Like every single little thing makes a difference. The most recent job that I got, and kind of, I don't know, it's like kind of narcissistic, a few jobs. The most recent job I got, literally, it was, first off, speaking Armenian, and I'm not just saying, oh, you guys need to speak Armenian. It's great to be bilingual, doesn't matter what language in the world. We live in a really diverse community, so the extra language is like, that's pretty much what got me the job, and the fact that I volunteered, when was it? In junior year in high school, I volunteered at GED, Be Glendale Day, because we were at Hoover. So literally, I passed out like water bottles to families and teams, and one of the family members ended up being the person that hired me now. So it's like small world. So just take any opportunity, make your career your hobby, and I guarantee you won't regret it. It will make you content in life.
I'm going to add something to that. I think my involvement here at Glendale College, actually, the specific involvement, if I hadn't gotten involved while I was here as a student, and in high school I did nothing. I went to class and went home. When my first year at Glendale College, I went to class and I went to work and I went home. And until I got involved, I didn't realize how opportunity can really help develop you as a person. I never thought I'd work at Glendale College. Hanan didn't think he'd ever work at Glendale College. And we were here students together, and because of the opportunity and saying yes and getting involved really made that difference. I want to welcome Tagui Sarkisian. She's late because her patient ran late, but Tagui, do you want to introduce yourself, kind of who you are and what you do?
Hi everyone, I apologize for being late. Like Taylor said, my name is Tagui Sarkisian. I was part of ASGCC for 2 years, my time here at Glendale Community College. I currently study at UCLA. I'm in an NP PhD program studying reproductive medicine and endocrinology and helping people get pregnant. So,
tell them where you work. She has the most interesting work.
I work at CHA Fertility Center, and I also work at Ronald Reagan Hospital and Harvard Torrance UCLA Medical Center as well.
Welcome, Tagui. All right. We're going to jump into finances, something that is a theme for this week. And my question to the panel is, one financial mistake as a college student was ... Anybody can go first. One financial mistake you may have made.
Credit cards, don't.
Tell us.
Ladies, don't do it. Don't charge the card because that, if your income is less than what you're paying to the school plus paying to live on your own, I'm not saying don't spend, but be wise, especially whenever you use your credit card. Financial aid, okay, that stops as soon as you get your bachelor. They're like, okay, goodbye, nice to know you. That grant money, yeah, that's done. as soon as you get your bachelor, the next day you go to school, they're like, oh, we don't have any free money for you. Would you want to come to school or anything? Like, yeah, we kind of did. But so everything after the bachelor's is literally, you have to take a loan on it. You have to take a loan on it. And your maximum, like, it's about $54,000 a year. I know because I've hit maximum a few times. And imagine, whatever graduate school you want to go to, if you go to public school, it's going to be in the 20s to 30s a year. If you go to private school, 30s, 40s, maybe even more. So you can help yourself by not adding more money to your credit cards. So if you can, get rid of it. Because whatever you charge in college, trust me, it's not going to be paid. Okay, you'll make minimum payments, but you won't make it till the end. So that's about 10 years worth of unnecessary interest you didn't really have to pay. Don't be depressed, everyone.
So I was somewhat lucky. I didn't have the credit cards, so I was forced to do Glenville College, then CSUN, working 3 jobs and paying everything on my own. And so I don't have what I did wrong. I seriously, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had no weekends. I worked at an archery store. I sold bows and arrows. I worked as a waiter. I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning, and the beeline stops at midnight, so you walk home. I did everything that I needed to do to pay that tuition bill. And so lucky for me, I didn't take the credit card route, and it's what's saved me, because once I got to graduate school, I was able to take as much as I needed to go to USC for both my master's and my PhD. And she's totally right. The max is, before you know it, you're at $54,000. It's simple. I just
registered.
registered.
Doesn't even cover your living expenses.
Yeah, I mean, I just paid for fall classes, and it's depressing. It's 3 classes and it's depressing. But at the end of the day, if I want to continue to progress in my career, I do need a doctorate. And it doesn't get any cheaper. A doctorate was $10,000 less 2 years ago, and $10,000 less 4 years ago. And so by the time you get there, it won't be costing you $60,000. That's the bad news. So just have good habits. If you're gonna spend, I was just telling them my birthday is coming up. I will be buying myself a new outfit, yes. But I know what I want. I know where I'm gonna shop for it. Nordstrom's Rack, Ross, my favorite friends. I went to Glenville College eating Tapatio sauce and Top Ramen every day. Or the Subway sandwiches used to be $5 for a whole foot long back in the day.
Save half.
You save half of them after your classes in the evening. I just picked up those little things that helped me get through college on a $20 budget a week if I had to. It was doable 10 years ago. I don't think you guys can do that now. But just build those skills, because they will come back to help you when you're 30, 40, 50.
I actually had the same as you. I cannot get a credit card even if I wanted to. I would be like, please give me a credit card. No, you weren't born here. My first years in Glendale, I had a bog. They still have bogs?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And then my other 3 years was a scholarship. I ran track. But the one thing I can say is you need to budget your money. And more importantly, you need to treat yourself. You need to figure out what's worth spending money on and what is not. That's very important. And you can't lie to anybody. You can't say, oh, I'm going to go out and spend a lot of money or buy this and buy that, when next month you're not going to pay for a book or you can't pay for a calculator. Be true to yourself. You have to envision that every single penny you invest on education is going to come back to you. That being said, that's all I have to say for this.
Well, I had a credit card. No, I still have a credit card, but those long lunches at ASGCC, being introduced to sushi at a very young age, all of these things add up. But it's true, credit cards can be your worst enemies at a young age when you are like, wow, okay, I'll just do it, use it now, pay later. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna go to work. You don't go to work because you have to go to school. And but now, as you know, when I look back, there's a lot of little things I could have done. I mean, all of us had to save and try to pay through our way through school and books. And as a biology major, each book is, I mean, I don't know about any other major, but very, very expensive. And they quickly change, and you constantly have to be purchasing new things and new materials. But if you really start paying attention and doing a little bit of financial planning, I remember when my uncles and my aunts would, or my parents even, would tell me, you need to start thinking about that now. You're young, but you need to start thinking about that now. I didn't think it was important back then. I didn't think as a student with the very few dollars that I had that it was important to even think about having a plan. But being financially aware of your situation and what you truly can afford to do and what you cannot do is really important, and I think it's the hardest part. A couple of months ago, I was at the hospital, and I'm just a student at the hospital and an intern, and a doctor was telling me how he has to cut down the amount of venti lattes he buys from Starbucks because he doesn't think it's not part of his, plan for the week. I mean, he's going overboard, and I'm thinking, this man is probably making 10 times more money than I am, and he's thinking about his venti lattes, and I haven't even thought about that. So it's important. It really makes a difference. But then this person is now financially stable, being able to do the things he really wants, and maybe it's not right for us to buy lunch every day. My point is that even when you don't think those small things matter, when you really add them up, at the end of the day, it really does matter. It makes a big difference. And when you're, in school and when you're older and now you really are the one paying off all of the debt, you're like, wow, did I really need to do this? Couldn't I just pack my lunch one day? So it's important to start planning from a young age. I wish I was a little bit more smarter, and I did a little bit more research when I was at GCC. For example, I never thought about selling my books back. And the other day I was moving, and I'm like looking at my books thinking, why did I ever sell my books back? Do I really need this? That could have, cut into my budget to help pay for the next set of books. Or why not learn about programs on campus? Why not look for scholarships? There's so many things out there that I never researched, and now I'm starting to research for my younger, people in our family, and I'm like, wow, I should have done this back then. So finding funding is very difficult, but it's there. I think if you really try to ask as many questions and keep being persistent about it, I think you can. But it also is hand in hand with financial planning and kind of seeing what you can really afford versus what you can't. And it might start from a cup of coffee to a lunch to really understand.
I'll use the question.
I got 2 points.
I'm going to answer this question too because it wasn't covered, but nobody ever told me. I didn't take out financial aid when I was at Glendale College. I didn't know about it. But when I transferred, I had to take out financial aid. I needed loans and I needed grants. I needed whatever I could take. I come from a single family home. But nobody told me I didn't have to take out everything. They offer you a lot of money when you are applying for FAFSA. And I took out every single penny that I could, but not all of it was a necessity. And I used it to go to sushi and to shop and to do things that I really did not need to do. And let me tell you, 10 years later, I'm still paying, and I'll be paying for the next 20 to 30 years. And it's very difficult. What Tagwi said, I echo. We don't realize it. I didn't realize it then. How it would affect me 10 years down the line. I'm almost paying double what I took out because of interest, and we don't realize that. And your generation of students, your interest has doubled. Your interests are higher than 4%. Ours were lower, and imagine that. So, it's not worth it. So an advice that I would give is to really, kind of what they all talked about, budget yourself. Figure out what you really need for tuition, for living expenses, and for food, and don't take out everything, because, yeah, it's there, it's free, you don't have to pay for it for like another 4 years, but guess what? When you do have to pay for it and you're making money, and more than half your income is going to student loans, it sucks. It really does suck, yes.
Can you point out that student loans are not honorable in bankruptcy either?
Exactly, that's the only loan that's, it's the only loan that's not
That's true.
forgivable.
Basically, if you die, the money's still owed.
Yeah.
Somebody will have to pay for it.
Pretty
And
much.
if you file for bankrupt and you're like, oh, I don't know the government any money. Yeah, you do. It's
You
called.
still do.
But
Government.
there's a program, if I have, I don't know if you're still.
What program?
Well, let's hope that our students don't go through bankruptcy. That's why we're having this financial literacy week, right, to teach students. And then another thing was credit cards. I got my first credit card when I was a student here, and it had Cheerios on it, and I was so excited. It was a Capital One credit card that I still have. Nobody told me that, oh, you're not supposed to just pay the minimum payment. I was paying minimum payments. I was charging $100 a month, paying $35 a month, and I thought, wow, this is so great. Guess what? It took me 4 years to pay off that first credit card that I have. And it took me 10 years to figure out how to be financially responsible, because I didn't have opportunities like this. Or somebody from the bank that was here, I think on Tuesday, talking about credit scores, or talking about how many credit cards you should really have, and how to keep it below how far below the credit limit you should have your credit card balance, all that good stuff. I had no idea, and up until I want to say maybe 3 years ago, my credit score sucked. And I don't even know how I got loans. And you know what? My credit score affected the rates of my student loans. Keep that in mind too, because they will loan you the money, but the rate will be so high based on your credit. Anybody want to add anything on student loans?
Yeah, I have a little bit more. One thing I do want to point out, guys, like, this is not like the next 10 years of your eternal depression. It doesn't mean don't have a life, because I can already see the life being sucked out of you guys one by one. Everyone's going pale. Pretty much, whatever you output, your effort into it has to be equivalent, if not more. Let that be the guideline that you follow. If your efforts are equivalent or more, then you can do the things that you want to do. For example, I never held myself back from going out with friends, shopping, vacation, whatever. I bought a car, I bought a house, like, life went on, like, true, I was at school, I was doing 40 hours a week there, I was doing 40 hours of rotation, working for free, working for close to nothing, working for food, but literally I still had a life, and I want you guys to remember, you still have a life. So don't think of this as like the endless pit of despair.
Was I that depressing, Ellen?
No, but I could see everyone's faces like these guys are about to pass out. And last but not least, there are loan repayment programs. Okay, so I really urge everyone to take a look at your, for example, mine was through direct loans, and then direct loans changed to Great Lakes or something like that. If you go to their website, and I don't know whichever ones you may have your loans through Sallie Mae or whatever, or will have in the future, for the healthcare professions and social services, there's a bunch of loan forgiveness programs that offer up to $60,000 a year for loan forgiveness. I'm sorry, $60,000 for every 2-year contract you sign. So, for example, Federal Reserves, the VA, USC County, any other kind of nonprofit jobs, even if you're in like other professions, if you work for a nonprofit agency, you can apply for this. So I want you guys to really write that down and look into that.
Next question. And we'll open it up. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes?
Also, adding to student loans, you're going to ask for deferments, which means if you're unemployed and you're really having a hard time making that payment, you can ask for a deferment, and just keep in contact with your lender. That's the best remedy when you're having problems. Keep in contact, and they'll give you solutions how you can manage that.
Any questions? All right, we'll move forward. Next question. What is the best way as a college student to save money when you have so little to begin with?
What's the best way to save money? I'll let you ask a question first as we
Well,
think.
it kind of relates to this, but like, how early did you guys start your 401k, or how did you start it?
I have
My 401k went down in the dump when our recession hit bad. I was with Rite Aid and just.
We have a savings plan, so in the last 7 years since I started working here, I started one. So it wasn't something that I had while I was a student. The best thing that you can do to save as a student, honestly, is to, for lack of a better word, live week to week, knowing, so for example, when I started school here, I knew that I was a waiter, and that this is how much I would be making on my paycheck, and this is how much I would be making with tips. And so I decided that I would live off my tips. My paycheck, I wouldn't look at. It was going to the bank, it was going to pay for school at the end of the semester when I needed to pay for it. And so if that day, and it happened, Steven Spielberg came in, gave me an $80 tip, you better believe I ate better that week. And then there's other weeks where you don't have as many tips, and I was back to my top ramen and tapatio sauce. So I'm not kidding you. Like, I would walk around, like, people in the cafeteria still recognize me for that. I work here now and they look at me like, and I still do it, I still enjoy eating that. But my point is, be true to yourself. Like he said, if you're going to have a good time this week, remember that next week you have to pay it back. It's not about an image, it's about you. And whatever you take out in loans now or credit cards now will affect what loans and credit cards you'll have in the future. You want to be able to buy that beautiful car. You want to be able to buy a house. You want to be able to do all these things 10 years from now. But believe me, the credit cards that you're using today will affect that. Simple as that.
For the 401 question, I'm my own boss, so I don't really do the 401k, but for anybody that wants to be their own boss, you just expect to make a lot of money when you're 60. That's just the way it is. I don't have life insurance either. I have a friend that's a State Farm agent, and he's always bugging about life insurance. I don't have that mentality. I'd rather just invest or do what I gotta do, and then I'll figure things out later. But I have faith in myself. As far as the other thing, it's gonna be a good life. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be good.
Just a reminder, he was a humble.
One thing I notice, and it's growing a lot more, is that students are becoming way more materialistic than 10 years ago. Big time. I mean, from iPhones to shoes. Back then, I mean, if you had a pager, you were the coolest kid on the block. You have to understand that times change, and a lot of money, a lot of time goes into, electronics, goes on to a lot of things that are not necessarily to your education. So have those principles ready, and I think that's one way to save money. And then you also have to understand that there's cheaper ways to doing things. From phone bills, do you really need wireless? Do you really need unlimited data? Do you really need to buy a pair of shoes every 2 weeks? Stuff like that. You need to realize the position you're in, and you need to realize that things are going to get better, and you just have to adapt to the circumstances.
I agree with part of Omar's statement. I have a 401k. I mean, when I was younger, my parents had set up a mutual fund, so I never really got birthday presents. They just kind of did that for me. And then when I got to GCC downstairs, I remember I saw a poster for studying abroad, and I took everything out and I went to Greece. Bad decision. But what happened was I realized that putting away a little bit at later on, you never know when you're going to need something. So a little bit really does help. I remember my first car, my mom told me she bought with saving quarters, and that was very hard for me to understand, because I guess in our household she was the one responsible for doing the laundry, and they would give her quarters and she wouldn't use the quarters, and she would hand wash part of it, and then slowly the quarters added up, and when I graduated high school she bought me a car, and I was like, oh my gosh. So every time I think about saving, I think about my mother bought a car with quarters. So a little bit can help. So just like Omar said, do we really need to upgrade our iPhone every year? Do we need to buy, this and that? And a little bit cutting back will add up. It definitely will. So when I first got a job, I was getting paid less than minimum wage. I was sort of like a volunteer. And at the same time, I opened up a savings account, and I put $20 of that in that account every month without me even doing anything. We just do it automatically. I've been employed for 8 years now, and when I go back, I'm just shocked that $20 can add up. We don't really know, like, wow, this could really happen. So saving when you have nothing, but a little bit of nothing is still a little bit, I believe. So maybe just kind of making smarter decisions about, you know, just little things in life.
Pretty much like with the whole saving note, like I wish I had saved more. There was a savings account before I entered grad school. I made a lot more money back then, just being a pharmacy tech than, I don't know, like ever as a grad school student. So you have to go into it knowing that, yeah, you can't buy the nicest car, yeah, you can't do this. As a matter of fact, I think all you guys should write down on your little papers that you have in front of you, an assignment for the weekend, get out of LA County, okay? I went to school in Fresno County. When you go from like being raised in LA, and especially Glendale, where everyone is driving, and everyone and their grandparents is driving a Benz and living in the projects for $500 a month, like really? I went to Fresno County and I was like, wow, how are people living and how are we living? What are our priorities? Like getting your roots touched up every 10 days for like $130. Really, how are we living and how are they living? So that's a huge thing. You have to realize like how is the rest of the world living? So take a step out of LA County and, you know, breathe in whatever air you want to breathe in and just realize things are different. So I know where Hollywood is, and you know, we try to imitate the movies and the reality shows, but it's not reality. Really.
Thank you. Yes, questions?
2 cents, just 2 cents. For you guys who have 401ks, I would recommend if you can, roll it into a Roth 401k, so you can start saving that dividends and capital gains from that. 401ks went to 201ks, that's okay. But if you can roll it into a Roth, and you can start a Roth IRA. All you need is $50 a month, 25 every other week. You can start your own Roth IRA. 2 cents.
We're going to open it up to questions. Yes.
I have a quick question. Everything seems to, budgeting starts with an individual. What can we do to start with the financial, with the institute that we're attending as far as budgeting? Because I'm already constrained as it is on my budget, but then I still have to come to school and pay for parking. I have to pay high tuitions, and I have all these other things that the institute is posing on me. So what can we do as an individual or as a group to attack that issue directly towards the institute? I understand the parking structures are already paid for, everything's already paid for, and yet they're still making money off the students. So I mean, what approach would you recommend to take on that?
These are a few questions you have to ask yourself. One, what's your major?
Financial planner and investment.
Okay. There's a lot of people that, another question is, what school's fitted for me? I've known so many people go to USC for education, which is good, but keep in mind, education, it's a little difficult to make that much money. I went sociology, and my whole education system was, how much did I spend? Under $8,000 for my college. You have to understand that the major you have is not necessarily the most expensive, and you need to take that to the heart, to like forever, because a lot of people invest in the most expensive schools, and the return is not always the same thing. It can be, but it's not always the same thing.
In terms of tackling issues that have to do with, you know, as a student, you want to be able to fight for, you know, keeping tuition down, having parking be at, you know, levels where students can't afford. There's, I think, many outlets on campus. You can always, you know, when I was in ASGCC, I was on the finance, what was the cabinet called? Finance?
Finance.
I was in finance. And always there's these conversations going on. You can always submit concerns. You can always speak to one of the senators and they can bring it up. There is,
Grants, CPS,
yeah, all these different, but I think your question, if I'm understanding, you want to do something to reduce those rates? You're saying, why are they charging us for parking if parking is
I'm
paid
just
for?
saying, if we ourselves look at budgeting within our statute,
Uh-huh.
why doesn't the institute look at within their statutes of why students should be paying for parking that's already paid for?
There's, yeah, I understand. So you're just wanting answers and, you know, talking
For
about
me, it would make
rates
my
and
life a lot
things.
easier if we, none of us have to
Can I
pay for
respond
parking
to
or.
your-
I think it's a little different than what we're, Hanan, or
That's
I.
okay. So there is a budgeting committee, and under that budgeting committee, believe me, there's at least 6 other groups that meet to decide what classes do we offer, how much do they cost, what textbooks do we get, what company is going to be here, and will they offer you a rental for the students. And they're not just faculty and staff that sit on those committees, there's actually students that sit on it. So it's a direct way that you could change that would be to approach Toller probably to actually get on some of those committees. Yeah. And like he said, a lot of it has to do with choices. He's right. If by going into education, I'm probably guaranteeing I will not be a millionaire. It's not going to happen. Education is just not one of those fields where you will make millions of dollars, unless I'm a football player or something like that.
But I know a teacher who just retired, he retired early, he was 62, and he was in elementary education, he taught 3rd grade for 30 years. And because he invested while he was going through those 30 years, he's retired and he's very comfortable.
That I wasn't saying that you can't be comfortable. My point is,
Yeah.
choose your major wisely. If your goal is to become the richest person in the world, education is probably not going to do that for you. Sociology is probably not going to do that for you. Sit there and ask yourself those questions of where will you have the opportunities to make money. For me, what I get out of education is the passion I get to work with students, passing education along, giving you an opportunity to reach out for whatever it is that you want to do. So that's what I get reward-wise. In terms of the institution, for example, parking lot. I was actually here when they built the parking lot. The parking lot is built, but it's built with a grant that we took out. So every semester when you pay for a parking pass, a part of that money goes back to pay for what we use. So it's not like when you pay $26 actually $46 a unit now, the money doesn't stay at Glendale College. Surprise. Every single dollar that you pay goes straight to the state. The state of California then sends us back something close to $13 and says, educate him or her. So another way that you could step up and do something about the system is actually contacting your state and saying, out of the 46, maybe community colleges, high schools, education should be getting more of that money back. There's a lot of different things you could do. You're right, you're asking the right questions. And I'd say if you want to sit one-on-one with one of us, maybe we can help you figure out what you can do directly. And maybe some of you want to get involved with maybe making some difference in the way the system works.
I just raised that concern because this magazine, I guess, Glendale produces this. And I've been knowing about this issue about the 90,000 foreign work visas a year. And I look at it like, okay, so if 90,000 work visas are being created every year, where does that leave me as what opportunities does that give me? So I kind of see it in that perspective, but it is what it is. So.
Well, one thing, do you know the name of the person behind you, for
Maybe
example?
you should repeat the question, because maybe
Okay.
the question.
Or even the person next to you?
I know a couple of people back there.
So repeat the question.
It was a little complex to repeat.
Something about why are we paying for something that's already paid for in terms of our parking passes. The thing is, you need to find refuge in your community. Everyone is so individualistic that you guys need to all get off your high horses, because with all due respect, you sound like that ranting person on the news that is just yelling, with all due respect. So if you see a problem, which I see it too, I absolutely agree with you. Why are you guys paying for something that's already paid for, or, as you said, taken out by a grant? Get together with your colleagues, find a friend that's taking poli-sci for a major, get together, sign a petition, see where you can go with it. Your community is your best asset. So if you don't like something, guess what? You're paying for it.
Yeah.
Like, all of this building right here, everything, you guys have paid for it, or your parents have paid for it with their tax money. Now, I don't know individually what cut of what bill went to where, but this is all our community's project, hence the point, Glendale Community College. So get together with some colleagues. If you need to sign a petition, sign a petition. This all goes on your resume if you do, and it's an experience. If you think something is not right, step up for what you believe in. Find a few people that also believe in the same thing. See where you can go with it.
Any other questions? Yes.
I kind of have something to add to everything, but at the same time, it really has nothing to do with it in a way. Like, who's heard of the GI Bill? Anybody heard of the GI Bill? Okay. Well, if you guys didn't know, if you guys served 4 years in the military, I'm not a recruiter. I'm just letting you guys know. 4 years in the military, all your tuition, all your books are paid for the up to a bachelor's. So I personally don't have to pay my school for the next 4 years, and I can transfer after 2 years, and it's free. I go to CSUN and I still go for free. My tuition, books, is good. Not only that, but I get a housing allowance of $2,000 a month, so I don't have to work. Not only that, but I get free health care. Now look at that. And if I wanted to stay in the military, I joined at 17 and a half. If I would have stayed for 20 years, I could have retired at 37 and a half years old. Now that's unheard of. Who retires at 38 years old, right? So, you know, you guys should
How
probably...
many years did you serve to get that?
I served only 4 years. You could join the reserves, and you could get the GI Bill. So I highly recommend it. If you guys feel like school is like really expensive, this and that, go join for 4 years. Go join the Air Force. I joined the Marine Corps. So, you know, join something easy. People like easy things, especially when you guys have an education. Join the Air Force. Join something that, you know, just needs more.
So you're now recruiting, huh?
It's something good to think about.
Yeah.
If you guys, you know, like, it sucks, you know, having loans and all this, but not only do I qualify for all my GI Bill benefits, but I qualify for every single thing that you guys do. I get a Puck Plaza and all the loans you guys can get. So I get more benefits than you guys. Not only that, but I get priority in all my benefits for all you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it a question? Yes. Okay.
So many of you may or may not have heard of the Investors Club of GCC.
On finance, on career, on life.
Yes. Well, remember what I said about being yes men and yes women? I think most of you guys are because you guys took the time on this beautiful Sunday to be here. So you already had that little advantage that you came to this meeting and that you came with an open attitude to learn about what we had to say. And just thank you guys for coming, and you guys are on the right track.
Thank you.
Question?
I have a question. If you have an option between California State and Harvard University, which one would you recommend going to?
What's your major?
Business.
Okay, so even though you said business, I'd probe further and say, what do you want to do business-wise? So for example, someone that tells me that they want to open their private business, their enterprise, and they have the choice of going to Cal State Northridge versus USC, I'll tell them go to Northridge. Take that extra $10,000 that you have and invest it in your business, because you're going to get a business degree anyway. Someone that tells me that they want to work for Deloitte or one of these big name companies and become a corporate person, go to USC, because that's where they're hiring from. So for each major and what you want to do, there's a right school for you, in-state or out-of-state. A lot of these out-of-state schools are actually now competing with the in-state schools by actually giving you grants. So let's say you told me you wanted to go to ASU, right? Arizona State University. I know for sure right now that they have a grant. They'll make it cost as much as UCLA for you. So you could go to ASU, go to school, same major, and pay exactly the same thing, because they're trying to attract people to go there.
That's right.
So do the research on your specific major and what it is that you want to do in the future. Any other good questions? Yes, sir.
Sugar mama.
Come see me after afterwards, I'll tell you the answer to that, okay? All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I want to thank our panelists for coming, for taking the time to come out.